I'm Kyle Meinke, Michigan football beat reporter for Denard.com, and I'm here today to preview Michigan's Big Ten opener against Minnesota. Now, the Wolverines are 4-0 after the non-conference season, and they've established a lot of momentum after that rout of San Diego State last week. They looked fantastic in nearly every aspect of the game. They've shown great improvement, except for one area of the game, and that's the passing game. Denard Robinson still is struggling there, sometimes badly. He's hitting only about 48 or 49% of his passes. That's off 70-71% last year, and that's despite facing four very average, if not less than average, defenses thus far. Defenses that aren't nearly of the caliber of a Michigan State or a Nebraska or some of these teams he's going to face down the road. So this is a concern. And what teams are starting to do is they're starting to lock up defenders at the line of scrimmage and then sending an extra defender into the box and to spy on Robinson and his running abilities. And so far, Robinson has been able to beat that coverage with his legs. He ran for 200 yards last week against San Diego State, but he's not always going to be able to do that, especially against the better defenses. And that's where his passing game and having opponents respect the passing game becomes of paramount importance. And that's something that's just not happening yet, and it won't happen unless he establishes some kind of rhythm. So going forward, I would expect to see three things Michigan try to do to get Denard comfortable. First, I would expect to see shotgun formations to the degree we have so far, if not more so. Now, Al Borges talked in the offseason about wanting to feature a back, and as part of that, having Denard under center more often to accentuate what the tailbacks do. But that hasn't been the case. Robinson was in shotgun formations about 67-68% of the time in the opener, and that's actually gotten greater. He was in them about 78-79% last week against San Diego State, and that's because of his struggles in the passing game. Denard is simply more comfortable in the shotgun looks, and he's a more effective runner from the shotgun looks, and that's what Michigan needs right now because the passing game just isn't getting it done. And I expect that to continue as long as Denard isn't comfortable and isn't producing in the passing game. The second thing I would expect to see from Michigan is getting Denard some easier routes to complete, especially earlier in the game. Maybe some screen passes, some short passes, some seam routes. He's still very effective there. And maybe even passing on running downs. That's one thing Al Borges mentioned this week. Passing on, say, like a second and short when a team isn't necessarily expecting to pass. And just trying to get Denard established and getting an energy going and a flow going, because he's such a rhythmic player. And if he gets some momentum going, he's a different guy. He's more comfortable. He's settled. His footwork is better. When he's struggling, especially in the passing game, some of those fundamentals they lag a little bit because he starts to overthink things and that kind of thing. So early in the game, I'd expect to see some shorter passes and some easier passes just to get a flow established with him. And lastly, I would expect to see the receivers run better routes and crisper routes. Borges and Hoke have talked this week about the importance of receivers running crisp routes and how the struggles so far in the passing game aren't all on Denard. And they've said that, I think, in part to deflect some of the blame for what's gone on from Robinson, but there probably is some truth to it as well, and some guys cutting off routes early, especially just they're getting frustrated. They haven't been targeted. Receivers caught only 5 balls last week. Roy Roundtree led them with 2 receptions for 15 yards. That's just not enough, and so there's a frustration element there, and I would expect to see more crisp routes and that kind of thing from the receivers going forward to get Denard going, because he's certainly not right now in the passing game. It hasn't hurt him yet, but it will going forward in the Big Ten slate, especially after this week against Minnesota, when that schedule really picks up and he goes on the road against Northwestern and on the road against Michigan State. For Denard.com, I'm Kyle Meinke.